Yes, I'm Orlando Jenkins. I'm the director of mechanical licensing at Warner Music Group, and I'm also the North American chair for our Black ERG named Kinfolk. Thank you to Maceo for inviting me to talk about one of our key events of the year, which is the Kinfolk Writer Camps, with the tagline being the power of intentionality. And so I'll just jump into it. So Kinfolk is an employee resource group at Warner Music Group that celebrates and promotes the diverse talents of Black people through professional development initiatives, community service, and outreach. We started with chapters in LA and New York, and we've since expanded to Toronto and Nashville. And we also have a chapter in London. And so the challenge being Black culture kind of drives entertainment, but when you look behind the scenes, there aren't too many of us. And we're underrepresented on both the creative side and the business side of the industry. And so one of the goals that I had for our ERG is to create programming that centers community access and professional growth. So beyond your Black History Month celebrations and talking about Dr. King and all of that, I wanted to dig a little deeper and talk about the unsung heroes. So for example, DeFord Bailey, we had a presentation about him where he's one of the pioneers of country music, but no one knows that because he was a Black guy and he was short and he was a part of the Grand Ole Opry, but he was hidden. There's one story where in some areas where they were traveling, he had to hide in the trunk. So things like that. And so what we built started last year and we expanded it this year was the Kinfolk Writers Camps. And this is a 3-day immersive songwriting camp series curated by and for Black creatives. And we do it during Black Music Month because we're a record label. Black Music Month, let's explore all the things we can. We launched it last year in LA. So we had 3 rooms in LA. And so this year we expanded it to Toronto and Nashville. So Nashville had 10 rooms plus 2 studios. And Toronto, I believe, had 3 rooms as well. And we did it again in LA this year. I was at the LA and Nashville camps. And each camp, beyond the traditional songwriting rooms that are collaborative, I was glad that most of them were kind of span different genres. So in Nashville, it went beyond country. We had trap, we had R&B, we had soul. There was a saxophonist that came in and dropped some tracks on another song. But writers' rooms, we have educational panels. And I think in all the cities, we had a music publishing 101 panel. We had a sync panel in Nashville, and we also had an industry panel. And then each camp ends in a mixer. So it bridges the folks that work at Warner Music Group can commingle with the creators at the camp, outside folks that were invited in to just mix and mingle and have drinks and food and just celebrate each other, celebrate Black Music Month. So the impact that we had was between the 3 cities, we had about 150 creatives that participated. We had at least 70 original songs, either created completely or started. I think 50 of those were in Nashville. We had multiple student participants that were able to come into the writers' rooms as professionals, and now they're starting their careers. We had press coverage from local outlets here in Nashville. We had Music Row magazine did a piece on us, and this has sparked a conversation with multiple companies and other industry professionals that are like, this is kind of dope. Let's explore how we can build on this. And I'll pause and talk about Nashville a little bit, where for those who aren't familiar with Nashville, it's considered Music City, but traditionally that means country music and it means white musicians. And so our camp, for a lot of people, seemed to be the first, which is bittersweet because, again, like we're so underrepresented, but at the same time, Nashville, although known for country, Nashville, although known for country, it has deep roots in R&B and gospel. And so all of these different genres that have been pushed to the side are being brought back to the forefront. And it took an ERG to do that. So that's why I say it's bittersweet. And it's elevated our visibility both internally and externally. So we're having active talks with even Sony Music Publishing to do a writers camp next year. And so these are the kind of the impacts immediately from this camp. And I'm definitely proud of it. And people are still talking about it, and it ended 3 weeks ago. And so some of the key takeaways that I'll impart to you guys who are leading ERGs is Number one, start with purpose, not scale, because we all know that our budgets are tiny at all existent. And so know what you're trying to accomplish and start where you can. So like in LA, it was 3 rooms. That's what we had. That's what we could accomplish. Nashville, we had a little bit more space, so we could do a little more. Be intentional. There's an attack on DEI with this current administration. And so be intentional with what you're trying to do. And sometimes you got to market it a little better. Find synonyms for diversity, equity, and inclusion to get your message forward without triggering folks. Get creative with your resources. So I had a particular budget for all of the camps, and we stayed in those budgets. And we, like, even to the point where I personally I booked all the food, like myself, instead of hiring like a caterer to come in and have a huge spread. I'm like, all right, so let's Grubhub these 3 things, and we got options this day, order these things. So cutting what could have cost like 8 grand, cutting it down to 3. So just getting creative with your resources. We can do a whole lot with a little if we're strategic. Tracking your cultural ROI. So getting those testimonials from folks. We got testimonials from not only creatives, but also people who attended the panels. And folks that came to the mixer, just seeing how it impacted them. And so we can utilize that to not only get more buy-in from Warner itself, but also buy-in from outside parties that could potentially partner with us. And then last but not least, again, remember your why. Like, why are you doing this? And keeping that at the top of your mind. And that's all I got. So questions?
Much appreciated. That is such a cool concept too. And you said you work with students. That's who was part of the camp.
So the interesting thing about Nashville is that even though if you come and visit, it's rare that you'll see one of us, but there are actually 3 HBCUs here. And so we wanted to not only activate them for potential careers in the entertainment industry on the business side, but also those who are interested in being the next Chris Brown or the next Beyonce, like engaging them and showing them it's possible with hard work. Here's how you do it. And so engaging them, so earlier this year, we had what's an event called the HBCU Summit. And so the HBCU Summit was bringing in students from Fisk University and Tennessee State University and to learn about how a record label works, what are all the components, both on the label side, the publisher side, and then where I work is called shared services, where we basically service everyone and showing them all of the different careers, because entertainment isn't just actors and musicians and producers and agents. There's also accountants, there are lawyers, there are marketing people, A&R. There's so many different careers that you can go into in entertainment, and just wanting to give them visibility because a lot of HBCUs don't have that. I actually started at an HBCU my freshman year and transferred out because they did not have access to any curriculum with entertainment. And so I wanted to, in my capacity, be the bridge between the two.
So I'm wondering, that sounds like a huge thing to pull off. So it's like, how did you juggle your day job with pulling off this like huge initiative and kind of getting the buy-in from your managers and all the people around you to do that?
So having a strong team and time management. So we had bi-weekly meetings. And so everybody had their tasks. So my main task was to make sure we had the space and make sure that all of the necessary parties were aware of what we were trying to do. So me booking the studio, booking all of the writers' rooms. And so that was one piece of it. And then a lot of it was just brainstorming amongst each other and keeping like a note, like a Google Doc of all of our ideas and working through them through the week when you think like, all right, so I'm been working on this project for 2 hours. Let me reset for 20 minutes. Let me brain dump. And so it was organized over the course of maybe 5 months. And yeah, so it didn't take all of our time. It was really just, we were strategic. We laid the foundation. Everyone had the role and we just ticked things off the box. And then also being very collaborative. So we also have an event that we're about to start planning right now where we want to include outside partners. And so really it's just meeting with those partners, seeing what they have the capacity to do, and then just meeting in the middle without it overtaking our entire day. So
Mm.
it's time management and having that strong team of folks that have buy-in. And if it's a huge undertaking and you don't have the staff, put a pin in it. Like, all right, we would love to do this in a future date. Put that on the side. What can you do today? If it's just you, what can I pull off by myself?
Thank you.
I also noticed you said 5 months, so it wasn't something you're trying to do in 1 month and
Yeah.
stressing yourself out. So
Yeah, we started planning it like right after we basically planned our Black History Month celebration, and then we started right on the Writers Camp.